Hello, welcome back to my channel, of course. It's been a hot minute since I've posted. Still good that I'm posting because I feel like the old me would have let years pass before I posted again. Um, but it's been about a month since I've posted, and you know, life gets busy when you have a kid. I have posted things on my socials, my Instagram, my TikTok on a fairly regular basis because those are quick, short form content things to upload. So I've been doing that here and there for the past few weeks while also living life and taking care of a child and doing a lot of other things that we adults need to do to live. Also, until I get like my setup figured out, I'm gonna have to hold this microphone to my face because when I have it down here, it's really, or like even right here, it's really muffled. Um, so the only way you can get a crisp audio is if it's like right here, which is really unfortunate. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about a creative piece of mine, um, a novel, a romantic fantasy gothic esque novel um, that I kind of had been brainstorming for a while and thinking about for a while, several months. And I wanted to bring it to life. It kind of stemmed from a dream I had. It's like a really fantastical, like dark dream where I was in this like coffin room and there was like vampires and stuff. It was cool as hell. But um I mean, I haven't even written that into my book yet, but I might. Um, but it was a really cool dream and kind of helped me kickstart the story. I want to say the day after I had that dream, I started, brainstorming character design, character personality traits, things like that. Um, I also kind of wanted that eerie like vibe to it. Um, the main characters are, dark. And I got inspiration from music as well, which is great. I feel like getting back into my love of metal has helped me so much with my writing, and I'm so grateful for it. My son wanted to make an appearance very briefly. But yeah, the novel, romantic fantasy novel that I am writing is called Exiled from Everlight. Originally, it was going to be called just Everlight, but he agrees it needed a little bit more substance. And that may not be the title of it for the rest of the story. Like when I'm done writing, it might be something else, but for now, that's what we're going with. So, what is Exiled to Everlight? So, um, the story follows a handful of characters. Main character's name is Haven. She is a 27-year-old young woman. I wanted to make her a character that's obviously a lot of, romance stories, fantasy stories, they often have like a young woman, late teens, early 20s as like the main focal character. I wanted something that, I could relate to, something that I feel like is not super represented. And that is a mother, somebody who is in their late 20s, has a kid or, whatever. And, she also can, have space in a fantasy story, which is again a lot. If you look at a lot of, I mean, I'm sure there are stories out there that have, a mother as the main character. There's probably several of them. But it's not like a super common like trope you see. It's not super, you know, I wanted to do this because I really wanted to give that experience light. Obviously, it's a lot easier to write a character if you have some experience in what they deal with. So, you know, having, been pregnant and having given birth and being postpartum, it's a lot easier for me to expand upon that in a story. I don't go into super depth about postpartum with her, but I do make, pregnancy, childbirth, being a mom a piece of the story. So, like I said, this character, her name is Haven. I will show her character description. Um, and she is in a situation where she's married. The man she's with, um, he has a checkered past. He's an obscure character that I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail of because he's actually very important with, you know, a major piece of the story. I will just say that he is a problematic character in the very beginning, but the reason why he's problematic will pay off later. In the beginning of the story, we find Haven just living life, going about her business, taking care of her family. Um, she, again, is married to this guy named Raph who has a checkered past and has some problems. He, again, obscured. We won't know. I'm not going to talk about him. Um, he has an ex wife named Mariella and two children with her, a set of twins named Alara and Alejandro. And the story kind of kicks off with Haven experiencing these weird sightings around her home, and like a lot of eerie things keep happening. It's not necessarily around her home, it's in the woods behind her home. She'd be outside with her son or with her dog, and she'd be noticing things kind of rustling in the woods. And that's where Wyatt comes in. Now, Wyatt is my favorite character of the story so far. He is a otherworldly being from this world that I named Everdark. Now, before I go more into Wyatt's character, I'm going to talk a little bit about Everdark. It is this gothic, dark limbo, so to speak. It is on the edge of hell. It's not hell, but it's where troubled souls get trapped. It's where souls that should be damned but have not committed anything so vile that they deserve to go to hell. That's where they kind of end up. Um, and basically, it's this realm of darkness, monsters, vampires. The main like race in Everdark is like vampires and wraiths. Um, so yeah, Everdark is this world or realm. It's not necessarily like another universe. It's just like a layer of hell. It's not hell itself, but it's a layer of hell, almost kind of like how purgatory is, but purgatory is more for heaven. And purgatory, if you think about it in like the sense of like Christianity and Catholicism, it's a place where you go to cleanse your soul so you can eventually go to heaven. Whereas Everdark, a limbo, you're never getting out. Like once you're there, it's not eternal suffering, but it's darkness, it's um depravity, it's evil basically. And it's never going to see the full light of day. It's dimly lit by the glow of heaven and earth. Um when you get sent to Everdark, when you die, or if you become some kind of unholy creature on earth, um, you have your name completely stripped of you and you're only given part of your name. So, like, say, you know, you have your name as like my name. Um, I just go by Danny instead of like name, first name, last name, pieces of your name would be removed. You'd be given that name. So that's why Wyatt, when he gets introduced, he only gets called Wyatt. You don't know his first name. You don't know much about him until a little ways into the story, but um, he's just given that one name. That's why Haven only goes by Haven, because when she gets taken to this realm, she has the rest of her name stripped of her. And another important piece about this world, Everdark, um, is that it's the reason why it's not like Hell too is that it has its own government or own governing body called the Union, which is a series of like 8 or 10. I haven't given a definite number yet, but it's a bunch of wraiths and vampires who kind of set the rules in Everdark, make sure that everything's running properly, make sure there's like law and order. Now the law and order doesn't abide by earthly standards, so things that you can get away with in Everdark you wouldn't get away with on Earth, and vice versa. Um, so that's one thing I wanted to make sure was in place to differentiate it from Hell, because Hell is complete lawlessness. It's complete suffering. It's complete pain. There is no, you know, righteousness in any sense. So at least in Everdark, you can still have a moral compass, um, even though there's not a lot to be moral about there, unfortunately. So, basic plot, bare bones. I'm going to give it to you now because you have to obviously read the book when it's finished, to get the full story and all the nitty gritty details, and all the twists and turns. But basically, Haven, like I said, living her life, beginning of the story, has these weird experiences, runs in with this dark creature, who basically sends her to this dark limbo that she is now trapped in, separating her from her family, her loved ones, her child, which getting back to her child is her main driving force. Um, and that basically she is stuck because the rules of Everdark is once you're in Everdark, you cannot get out. Um, you could, be a part of the Union or a part of these like creatures that are able to go and bring souls in, but you can never ever go back permanently. Like once you're, in Everdark, that's it. So she's facing this impossible task of getting home, or either accepting her fate and basically realizing that she's going to die. Like she's trapped for all eternity and her soul is damned basically, or could be damned. So that's the main conflict, is getting home or facing death. And she has to, with Wyatt, make these choices, um, on whether she, sinks or swims. And obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. A lot more chaos, a lot more romance, a lot more fighting, a lot more, um, turmoil. But that's just the bare bones. So yeah, I'm going to show you a little bit of, the AI rendition of my descriptions of Everdark, which include Castle Nightfall, Castle Wyatt, Haven's home, other scenery, from the story, which again is still being developed. So more images, more characters, more things are going to form as I keep going forward with this manuscript. But this is, what has been created so far. This is Castle Nightfall, where the Union kind of governs from, commands from. It's different angles and stuff. And this is Castle Wyatt, where Wyatt's servants and Haven reside, while she's in Everdark. The main lobby, Wyatt's bedroom chambers, the maze or labyrinth out in the back of the castle, um, kind of things like that. This is the Bloodlust Tavern, plays a little bit of a role as well. And then this is Haven's home, where she lives on Earth. Kind of basic. Now, for the characters, we're going to start out with my favorite character, Wyatt. So, a basic description of Wyatt is that he is about 6'2", dark features with like curly, wavy, dark hair, facial hair, well fit, um, and he is a half vampire, half wraith hybrid that consumes blood and souls at the same time, or can at the same time, to sustain himself. He is also frozen at the age of 33 because that's when he died on Earth. And he died after being turned into a vampire, which is why he is a combination of wraith and vampire in Everdark. The reason why all that happened, you'll find out. But um, like I said, he is this otherworldly being. He has a lot of different powers. He has the power to heal himself and others. He has the power to manipulate and control dreams and emotions. And he also can form into a ghostly apparition and form into like a mist or a fog. He also can change his features when he is either like feeling hungry, or extreme emotion, like extreme rage or desire. He really can't mask his emotions. It shows up in his features changing, where his eyes turn from brownish color to a bright scarlet, blazing red. His veins kind of pop out into this like blackish purple. His body starts turning and forming into a mist. He basically becomes more of his wraith form. Um, and he, in his past life, when he was alive, which was around the 1500s, he was a knight. So he does have a strong moral compass and desire to withhold righteousness and justice, even in Everdark. His role in Everdark is that he is a soul reaper, which is a creature that goes to Earth, collects souls, brings them back, usually after killing them, um, to Everdark. But his role specifically is that he works for the Union, so his title is High Summoner, and it's somebody that brings souls, people to the Union for their consumption specifically and for their bidding. And yeah, so he basically is this dark creature. He does have good qualities to him for sure, and he's kind of tasked with caring for Haven while she's stuck in this hellscape. And this is Haven. She is a 27-year-old woman, mother of one little boy named Dominic, currently married in the beginning of the story to Raph, living and residing on Earth, gets kind of stolen away to another dimension for reasons unknown, and is trying to find a way back to her son. She is a devoted, loving mother, so she, of course, wants to get back to her child and is racked with fear, anxiety, and depression about being away from him, fearing what he fears is that she's not coming back, um, fearing death itself, and also confusion with what she feels for Wyatt, who was her captor, um, and also now her guide in this world. Um, so she has a lot of conflicting emotions, and the whole crux of the story is her fighting between, you know, herself and her feelings and the possibility of dying and or making it out alive, if that's even something that she can do. And this is Raph, otherwise known as Raphael Thornton, the spouse of Haven. His ex-wife is Mariella. He's still got a romantic tie to her, even though he probably shouldn't. Um, he has three kids, the twins with Mariella, and then Dominic with Haven. He is a being unknown or being unspecified because I cannot disclose what he is, because that's a huge, important plot detail. Um, but for now, he is considered human, just human. Um, and he is problematic, to say the least. And last, we have Mariella, otherwise known as Mari, the ex wife of Raph. She is a human woman, aged 30. She is 7 years younger than Raph, 3 years older than Haven. She has the two twin children with Raph. She's still romantically involved with him when she should not be. She's very kind of pushy, intrusive, doesn't really respect boundaries, very provocative and promiscuous in her appearance and behaviors. Um, she often will just leave her kids with Haven, kind of spur of the moment, not really caring. Yeah, so she's not the best character. She's got a lot of flaws, and she kind of is serving to be a antagonist, not the only antagonist, but an antagonist for Haven. So that is just a brief, basic description of the story plot and character summaries, designs. Um, all these characters, again, were of my own creation, so any similarities to other characters is purely coincidental. Images were generated with AI, so there always is a possibility that something could look a little bit similar, but again, these are characters based off of my own descriptions and my own writings. Um, and like I said, this is a manuscript that I am working on. With time, it's probably going to change and tweak and improve, and I'll keep you updated if there's any major plot details that change or characters that change. So I'm also going to make probably more in-depth videos about specific characters too. So I hope you join me for this ride forward with my book. I appreciate your time. Thank you.